So Michael Cheika staying on as Wallabies coach. That is the news out from Australia. There was a fair bit of talk that he was going to get the axe this close to a World Cup. It was seen as a potentially pretty dramatic move with who kind of being the man to take over. Jake White was a possibility for a while, but it's all fairly steady as she goes with Cheika staying. But the interesting news there in terms of his reporting line is that Scott Johnson, who's the current Director of Rugby with Scotland, is going to be Director of Rugby in Australia. So Cheika will be reporting to Scott Johnson, which will be quite a shift from the way things work now. As I understand it at the moment, pretty much all the guys associated with the Wallabies report directly to Cheika. So all the guys like the doctors and the physios, all the other coaches, they all report to Cheika. But that's not going to be the case anymore. He's going to be pretty much there to focus on the coaching side of things and leave that more strategic level stuff to Johnson. And I should say Johnson's done a pretty good job as Director of Rugby with Scotland. From what I know about him, I think Scotland's ranking, I think it's 5th in the world, is partly down to kind of his stewardship there as well with the coaches he's had under him. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to watch because, I mean, previously Cheika has worked with, what's the guy's name? Ben Whitaker, who's like the high performance boss in Rugby Australia. And by all accounts, he pretty much just ignored him. They didn't have any kind of working relationship, which is not unheard of. I mean, I don't follow a lot of rugby league, but I did hear that the Kiwis rugby league team, after some disastrous performance, it turned out that their high performance director had sent some report to the coach and he'd never read it. So it can happen that there's either no relationship there or kind of, I'm going to do my own thing, I don't need your information. That seemed to be the relationship there, so we'll see if that kind of stuff changes now. Cheika's going to have some input from other people because along with Johnson, there's going to be an appointed third independent selector. So it's not going to be down to Michael Cheika to make his selections independently. He's no longer kind of be that be-all and end-all figure that he is at the minute. So you have to wonder whether some guys who, at least from the outside, seem to be kind of Cheika's favourites. Ned Hannigan is the obvious example. Rob Simmons is another one. As to whether they will continue on with the Wallabies will be an interesting one to see, because of all the coaches that that we kind of follow at the top level, Cheika seems to be the one. I mean, he probably gets a bit more scrutiny on him because he's not got a winning record at the moment, but yeah, he seems to play favourites more than some of the other coaches. But as I said, that's all just looking from the outside. I've put Larkham up there as well. One site is saying that he has escaped the axe, that he's been spared. But from what I understand, once Johnson comes over to Australia early next year, there's going to be kind of a sit-down period where they decide what to do. And the coaches' futures, from what I read, are not guaranteed. That's the other coaches as well. So the forwards coach, Railui, who's not had the best time of it since he took over from Ledesma, skills coach, none of them, as far as I'm aware, are safe. But the guy who seems to be mainly spoken about as Larkham, he may be used as kind of a sacrificial lamb to take some of the attention away from Cheika, because he is the attack coach. And the main thing with the Wallabies, from the stats that this article gave, was in 2017 the Wallabies scored an average of 4.21 tries per game. In 2018 it was 2.31. So the attack is not there. Part of that's going to be wider issues than just who the attack coach is. But if you want to put that onto one person, the attack coach is one guy it could kind of fall on. So we'll see if Larkham keeps his job. To be honest, I'm pretty happy about this news. It seems like a pretty sensible middle ground, that you take away some of that independence that Cheika has on his own to make all the decisions. There's a bin coming up my driveway. So you get that kind of check and balance, that you're going to have some fresh pair of eyes on the situation to make sure you're not making foolish decisions. Because when you're the man on the inside and you're the one making all the decisions, you can get that kind of effect where you're not thinking with a clear mind, or you're not making perhaps what are the best decisions for the team. So personally, I think it would have been too late to put in a new coach now. If it was going to be someone like Jake White, maybe I would have argued otherwise, but for someone totally fresh, it was going to be hard. So Cheika's there. He's not a terrible coach. He's just had a terrible year. He's got a decent record. I've made a video about him before. It's definitely not working at the minute, so I think he could use some help, like I say, to kind of balance out what he's doing. Johnson seems to be a man for that. I mean, Cheika said he's looking forward to it, but what else is he going to say? This guy's just been appointed as boss. So what his true feelings are will be interesting. But I'm also glad, because if they had axed Cheika, I feel like there was a possibility that Larkham could have got the job. And as much as Larkham was a fantastic player, as a coach, he seems to have a lot to be desired. Like, his time with the Brumbies wasn't exactly earth-shattering, and his attack stats this year are not anything to write home about. So we will see what happens with Cheika working with Johnson. Hopefully it's kind of a fruitful partnership, and they can work together for the best interests of Aussie rugby. Hopefully we'll see a lift in time for World Cup, because Aussies are traditionally a pretty strong World Cup team. Definitely been a year to forget, so hopefully this is not a decision that comes back to bite them. But hey, I guess we'll wait and see. After 2019, we probably will have someone in line for new Wallabies coach anyway. So we'll see how they go for the World Cup, Tri-Nations, or Rugby Championship next year. And you guys let me know your thoughts on this reappointment, or this non-axing. Also Johnson's appointment. How do you think this will change things, if anything, for Rugby Australia, plus, like I said, that third independent selector? I forgot to mention that the whole the brief for Johnson is to align the Super Rugby teams to kind of get the best out of the Wallabies. So that has also been issues with Aussie Rugby before, is that perhaps the Super Rugby teams are on a different page. They're not putting the players in the right positions or training them the right way. So hopefully everything kind of culminates in the strongest Wallabies team possible. But yeah, like I said, you guys let me know your thoughts on these appointments, and talk to you again soon. See you later.